beasts, it's actually beast hunters. It's actually a book of beast hunters instead of beasts.
Is it like a calendar, like a pinup?
Did you find that wand in here?
No.
Oh. Okay.
Why?
Well, because I was looking for it in here.
Oh.
And I couldn't find it.
No. No, so it's a shorter book, but it's like, since it's written by Ludwig, it's just like his personal accounts of some of these like beast hunters and stuff, and just like fights that he's had like alongside of them, or they're like beast hunters that have worked alongside him or Lyco, and just different, really just like different stuff like that. And yeah, there's like sketches of them and like sketches of their gear and stuff. So, do you want to just start from the beginning, or do you want to like flick around?
I'll just start from the beginning.
Okay. So at the beginning, it's not really in alphabetical order. It's kind of just like people that he's, I guess, like people that he met first. And one of them is, the first one is this person by the name of Grish. And he's classified as like a barbarian that he met several years ago. We'll say it says about 10 years ago. No, I guess it would be, he met him 30 years ago. That's right. He is a he's a human who like his whole bag, I guess, really is he doesn't he never really wears armor, because he like is all about sort of like showing off his scars that he has from different like beasts. Like when he goes into like caverns and stuff, he's sort of a brag, you know. He's like one of those guys that likes to talk about
all the beasts he's slain.
Right. And he has like marks for pretty much everyone that he's fought. And he has this legendary great axe.
Question, does that not just make him bad at not getting hit?
I mean, like, he's a barbarian, so he doesn't really care about getting hit. He gets hit constantly, actually, seeing as he also doesn't have any armor. Oh. He has a legendary axe that he wields that is just, like, sort of grown more powerful over time. And it's called... it's just, like, he calls it the Slicer. And he's seen some of the effects that it does, and the main effect that this axe does is bleeding damage. So, but he was known to not really have a home. He just traveled around Maswendale, but a lot of his time was spent at Morendale. And Ludwig knows for a fact that he was in the fight that you were told about when, like, a darkness came to Morendale, when there was, like, the giant fight in the mountains, when Morendale was, like, it was, like, 20 years ago. So that's one of the ones that you find out about. And if you, like, flick around, you see that there's one for Lyco, and there is one for Night Fox too. So
interesting.
But yeah,
neat book.
Do you want to read up on Lyco, or?
I'll read up on Lyco for sure, because we're trying to find him.
Okay.
So let's see if there's anything.
In the most non-active way we possibly can.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. So, you already know most of the information about Lyco, but our listeners don't. So, Lyco, actually, this might be kind of fun. Jordan, why don't you tell us about Lyco, and then I'll tell you what he's doing now.
Okay. Lyco was a so this is basically just his whole history. Okay. So he was a Goliath who was part of a barbarian tribe, and at a very young age, out in the woods, he came across like a pack of lycanthropes who infected him. And so the tribe was going to banish him, but his father took pity on him, so he sought out a order of beast hunters that deal with controlling the lycanthrope disease. And so took him in, started training him to become a beast hunter, and then his bestial form was a werebear, and eventually became a full-fledged member and would go and take on contracts for hunting beasts and stuff, and that's how he came across, like, Ludwig was hunting for the same beast at one point. They come, crossed paths and then became fast friends through their hunting of the beast. So, and then later down the road had ventures after.
So, for those of you who don't listen, our campaign is taking place after a campaign that we all played together with our roles reversed a little bit. Geoff was our DM, and Jordan was Lyco Stoneclaw.
Yep.
And so the book goes over all of that, what you just said, and it touches on some of the adventures that you guys went on. And Jonah, you can tell, like, in the bio and like in the bio about Lyco, there's also like another name that gets brought up a lot, and there's like a little asterisk by the name, and it's Secant Walmrive. And like at the bottom of that page, it like mentions Secant, and it says like Secant isn't like technically a beast hunter, but on page like 124 is also a biography about him as well, if you wish to read about that. So it talks about what Lyco is doing now. As they got older, they stopped a like disease from spreading all throughout the land, and threatened to kill everyone in Morendale. And after stopping that, they had to fight some like unspeakable demons and things like that, and try to like hold them from getting to Maswendale. Now, once they thought that they had completed that task and saved Morendale once, they wanted to try and like kind of settle down. Like, they got older and like continued to hunt beasts and things. Lyco sort of like kept in touch with Ludwig and Secant, but went back to kind of like being a wanderer throughout the lands and trying to get contract kills and stuff like that for the remaining beasts in Maswendale.
Just your regular old beast huntery.
As of late, however, over the past 10 years, a sort of like darkness has cropped up in Maswendale that people don't really understand, and new strange beasts have sort of come about. And when that happened, Lyco and Ludwig met up again, and they formed a sort of a guild, a sort of beast hunters guild that Ludwig made weaponry for. It was sort of difficult for Lyco to get him to help him, just because he was in a sort of like a depression at the time, which is like he's writing a little too much about stuff like that, and it's you're like, oh, okay,
Old sad boy.
yeah. But they still are in contact and work together quite frequently. But Lyco does a lot of the roaming the streets, and Ludwig does less of that now. So
Lucky does all the work, and then Ludwig takes the credit. Is that what?
no, Ludwig doesn't take the credit.
Oof.
No.
Shots fired.
Shots fired.
At
Rude.
kneecaps.
At kneecaps. Wow.
But that's what you read.
Okay. Interesting. I'm gonna burn the book. No, I'm just kidding. Just get rid of it. Nobody else needs to know this information. All right.
I think it's evil.
This is sensitive information.
While he's reading through and he's like just kind of like saying names and stuff when he says Night Fox, I'm like, that name sounds really familiar. I don't think we know him though, but that name sounds pretty familiar.
It does seem to ring a bell, but I'm not sure if we've ever met anybody named Night Fox. It's a ridiculous name, really.
Yeah, it sounds like a kid made it up.
Die in a fire. Okay. So
I would like to read a little bit on Night Fox, though.
okay.
See,
So
does it mention why his name is Night Fox?
yes, it does.
Is it because he made it up?
Yes, it is. So Night Fox was rescued by Ludwig from a ship, which is where they originally...
After being put in danger by one of Ludwig's
No?
companion. Yeah, I thought that wasn't... Or didn't we have a mystic with us that tricked that kid into almost killing himself, and that was the kid that you saved?
Yes.
Right.
Okay, so after being... So after being tormented for days by a demon...
Yeah.
He was on the brink of suicide, so much on the brink that the rope was around his neck. And
So he was currently killing himself.
yeah. And Ludwig stepped in and saved him and burned the ship down, blew it up with everyone inside but him.
Turned out to be the usual course at a certain point.
But saved the kid from this disease that was spreading throughout Maswendale. Unknowingly killed the kid's father, Ludwig did, and took the kid under his wing, and the kid got to name himself, so he named himself Night Fox.
So he killed his father and then took him under his own?
Yes.
Is that like kidnapping?
It's more like a medieval form of adoption.
Yeah.
You're mine now.
So, Night Fox went on adventures with Secant, Lyco, Ludwig, and Moon Dancer.
Yeah.
And there was
Is she not mentioned anywhere in the bestiary?
well, there's an asterisk by her name as well. So, as he got older, he trained with Moon Dancer, who was a rogue, and he trained with Ludwig as well, and learned a couple different forms of fighting. Quote unquote, he has multiple classes. As he got older, he sort of like spearheaded things with Lyco, went on a bunch of different adventures with Lyco, and was a beast hunter essentially with him, like side by side. When Ludwig went to go find his family and sort of abandoned everybody for a long time, he went with Lyco and learn the ways of beast hunting. And once Ludwig came back after finding out about what was happening in Maswendale, Ludwig asked Lyco and Night Fox if they would spearhead the training of other beast hunters and using like the special weapons and stuff that Lyco that Ludwig creates for them. So yeah.
Interesting. What a weird guy.
Yeah.